career pathways in law. Before everything, I request Ma'am Principal to welcome the speakers.
Thank you, Mamta. I, on behalf of DAB family, welcome and thank Dr. Ravi Swami, Director DME, and Ms. Lahiri, who is working as faculty member of DME. I'm extremely thankful to Dr. Shalini Gautam for making all arrangements for this webinar to happen. And I welcome all the students on behalf of all the members, and hope that you will be able to learn a lot about CLAT. As you know, it is common law admission test, and the style of examination has changed. And the last date is 15th of May. So in case you people are aware what CLAT is, and if you want to go in different options of career available in law, here this webinar will be very helpful, and you have at least 1 week's time to apply for that. So I extend a warm welcome to all the speakers and hope that all the students will learn a lot of things about law and the careers in this field. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And now I would request Ms. Rinzi to proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, Mamta ma'am. Very good afternoon to all. My name is Rimsi Sood. I'm working as a coordinator, student services and admissions at Delhi Metropolitan Education, popularly known as DME. I'm here as a host for this webinar. I welcome you all on behalf of DME for this webinar on strategies to crack CLAT and career pathways in law. Now, I would like to tell you something about DME. Delhi Metropolitan Education is a premier educational institute affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, Delhi, and approved by Bar Council of India. At DME, we provide first-rate infrastructure with strong academic facilities to render a dynamic grounding for success. We provide 5-year integrated program, BA LLB, BBA LLB, 3-year management program, Am I audible? I hope am I audible to all of
Yes,
you?
ma'am. Yes.
So should I start?
Yes, ma'am, please
Yes,
start.
ma'am. Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Very good afternoon to all. My name is Rimsi Sood. I am working as a coordinator, student services and admissions at Delhi Metropolitan Education, popularly known as DME. I'm here as a coordinator, as a host for this webinar. I welcome you all on behalf of DME for this webinar on strategies to crack CLAT and career pathways in law. Now, I would like to tell you something about DME. Delhi Metropolitan Education is a premier educational institute affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, Delhi, and approved by Bar Council of India. At DME, we provide first-rate infrastructure with strong academic facilities to render a dynamic grounding for success. We provide 5-year integrated program, BA LLB, BBA LLB, 3-year management program, BBA, 3-year media program, BJMC. Today, DME is conducting a webinar in collaboration with SBP DAV Centenary Public School, Fatehabad, Haryana, on strategies to crack CLAT and career pathways in law. This webinar will provide you various strategies to crack CLAT exam easily in your first attempt. This webinar will also provide you clear vision on career opportunities available in flourishing law career. Now, I would like to introduce the The speaker of today's webinar, Professor Dr. Ravikant Swami, Director DME. Sir has an overall 24 years of experience in teaching and administration. He has done his PhD from University of Rajasthan. His thesis was published by Lambert, Germany. Sir will tell us the different options of career pathways in law. Welcome to you, sir.
Okay, can I start?
Yes, sir, you can start, sir.
Okay. How do I share screen? Just a second. Okay, so it's our proud privilege that we are talking with the students of class 11th and 12th. Yes, we are college teachers, and we always enjoy teaching or talking with the school students, because we are in the habit of talking with students who are little grown up. बड़े बच्चों से बात करने की हमारी आदत होती है. So we enjoy when we talk with school kids. Now students, let me start like this. I'm sure you have heard all these names. Mahatma Gandhi, obviously everyone has heard the name. वो तो नोट के ऊपर होता है. So everyone knows Mahatma Gandhi. Jawaharlal Nehru, everyone knows. Sardar Patel, Barack Obama, everyone knows. And the recently elected vice president, the Indian vice president of United States of America, Kamala Harris, everyone knows. Now, audience, my question to you is, what is common between all these personalities? Can anyone guess what is common between all these personalities? One thing is common between all these personalities is that all of them are advocates. All of them are law professionals. All of them did their LLB. So that this is how I start by establishing the significance. I'm audible, Rimsi?
Yes, sir, you are very much audible, sir. You are very much audible.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is how I start by introducing to the students of class 12th that the only common thing between all these people who are from different parts of this world and who have led different countries is that all of them studied law. The subject which they studied was not physics, not chemistry, not commerce, but it was law. So this is how we begin, by establishing the importance which a legal degree, a degree in law has. Now moving ahead, two types of law courses are available. One is the 5-year integrated law course and another is the 3-year course. So students, you must understand and compare these two courses. Well, the 5-year course about which we are talking here today, because the 3-year law is after graduation and you are not in the final year of your graduation, you are in class 12th. So the 5-year integrated course has got two distinct advantages. First is that you decide on your career immediately after 12th. That is very important because, say for example, you do BA or BCom or BSc, you are still not decided about your career. After graduation, you decide. But when you take admission in the 5-year law course, integrated course, you decide on your career right after your class 12th. And the second advantage obviously is a quantitative advantage, and it saves your 1 year when you go for a integrated degree. So this is how we compare between a 3-year law degree, which is done after graduation, and a 5-year integrated law degree, which is done after 12th and which is relevant for you today. Now, moving ahead, there are various, now we are going to talk about the 5-year courses. There are various combinations. We have BA LLB, we have BB LLB, we have BCom LLB, and you can develop any other combination. I heard that there's a university which has started BTech LLB. Tomorrow there may be a university which starts B Pharma LLB, whatnot. So what are these combinations? Let us try to understand. Because I have seen parents and students coming to me and asking that which option is better. So today, in the coming 5 minutes, we are trying to understand what are these options and which option is the best. Obviously, I'm not going to answer that question, that which option is best. I'm going to leave that question unanswered for you to decide. So there are various combinations of these 5-year courses. The combinations are what? One is the law degree, another is a graduation degree. You can do them separately also, but 5-year, as I said, it saves 1 year and it gives you a clear path right after 12th. So the difference between these courses, say BBA LLB, BA LLB, or BCom LLB, or BSc LLB, or BTech LLB, or B Pharma LLB is that actually there is no difference. Yes, students try to understand. What happens is, so I'll give you some figures. In graduation, at graduation level, the normal trend is that there are 5 subjects in any given semester. And if there are 5 subjects, then in the 5-year course, there are 10 semesters and there are 50 subjects, 5 tens are 50. But then in the 10th semester, it's on the job. The student need not come to the college. So there are 9 semesters where a student comes to the college, those subjects. So the subjects are 45. Now, see the difference between BBA LLB and BA LLB. The difference is that in semesters 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there is no difference. They are identical. While in semesters 1, 2, 3, 4, there is a slight difference, and that difference is to the tune of the ratio of 60-40. Means 60% is same. 60% are the law subjects in semesters 1, 2, 3, and 4, while 40% are the non-law subjects. So in a way, out of the 45 subjects, please note it, 38 subjects are same. So in a way, we can say that these combinations, when we compare them, we find that almost they are same. The difference is minor. Okay. Now, let us go a little further into this, because this is a question we students generally ask, that what is the difference between BLLB, BBLLB, so on and so forth. See, this is the difference. As I said, out of 45 subjects, only 8 subjects are different. So in case you go for BLLB, you will be studying what? History, sociology, political science, economics. While if you go for BBLLB, you are going to study management subjects like principles of management, financial management, marketing, business environment, so on and so forth. So this table clarifies that the difference is small, that of only 8 papers out of 45, and this is how the difference is going to be there. And so what do we conclude? What is my final word on this? What is the final word? If someone asks, what is the difference between BLLB and BBLLB or something like that? Well, students, my final word is the difference is only of the cover, only of the package. The inside story is same. 38 out of 45 subjects are same. So don't you think the difference is only of the cover? But then students opted in a different way. Students who are preparing for judiciary, etc., prefer BA LLB, because there in those competitions we find more questions from history, sociology, etc. While those who want to go for, say, law firms, etc., they prefer BBA LLB. Okay. Coming to the theme of today's discussion, career pathways in law. Yes, this is how we can decide. I can say that there are 4 paths after a law course. First is the simple path, that I start practicing law. We call it litigation. So this is the first and the most common path after law. Second is you can join a job with the law firm. Third is you can join as legal officer in a bank, in an insurance company, etc. And the fourth path is judiciary. Now, students, in the last part of my discussion today, we are going to discuss in the coming 10 minutes these 4 paths. So the first path is litigation or practice. Yes, well, the son of an actor becomes an actor, the son of a politician becomes a politician, and the son of an advocate, the daughter of an advocate becomes an advocate. Yes, it's nothing, there's nothing bad about it. It's very good. If my father has established a good advocate's office, the best way for me is to start practice. So litigation is the first way, but then to go into little detail, let us see what are the various areas of litigation, right? So there are large number of areas where you can go for litigation or you can practice law, like land laws. In areas like Fatehabad, land laws are very important. Why? Because a lot of infrastructure tasks are going on. A road is being broadened, your land is being acquired. So you are, advocate is needed for getting the compensation from the government. So there we talk about land laws, we talk about environmental laws, all the factories talk about labor laws. Then, of course, there's a very large field called corporate laws. Telecom companies, every company, they need a law, they need a legal advisor for taking up their cases in the courts. There are many areas which are upcoming areas like cyber laws, intellectual property rights, maritime law. These are all very new areas. And then there are some areas like due diligence. What do you mean by due diligence? Due diligence means if Ramesh Chauhan wants to sell his company Bisleri, he will go for due diligence, means he will hand over this task to a company and he'll find out what is the correct market value of this company called Bisleri, this brand called Bisleri. So this is what we mean by due diligence, and due diligence is done by lawyers. So when we talk about the first path after law, these are the areas in which you can practice as an advocate. Indeed, the scope is very wide. Even this list is not that exhaustive. Coming to the second path which you can follow after a law degree is join a law firm. And what is a law firm? A law firm is a business entity formed by one or more lawyers to engage in the practice of law. As simple as that. And these are the popular law firms in India: Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas, Trilegal, so on and so forth. But then there are multinational law firms also. These are not exactly law firms, but these multinationals like Ernst & Young, Arthur Anderson, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, these are organizations which employ large number of lawyers. They are into audit, they are into due diligence, etc. So when we talk about the second career path, joining a law firm, then these are the areas in which you can simply, means you are not practicing law, but you go and join a law firm, right? Coming to the third part, legal officers. Yes, every organization on this earth needs a legal officer because everyone needs a legal advice. Say, for example, your principal, Madam Madan, is employing a teacher. Then she also needs a legal advice because the employment contract has got many, many clauses. Therefore, even a school needs a legal officer. So, and there are organizations like banks, insurance companies, and whatnot. Everyone needs a legal officer. So this is, or legal advisor. So this is the third area where students can pursue their career after a law degree. The last area is judiciary. Now, judiciary means that you go for a competitive exam and you join as a magistrate. Say, for example, Fatehabad is in Haryana. So you write the exam for Haryana judiciary and you become a magistrate. Well, as a conclusion, I say that the scope or the demand for law professionals is increasing, and for all times to come, it's going to increase like anything. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot for a wonderful insight on the various career opportunities in law. I would like to ask to the students that if they have any query, any questions regarding the webinar, regarding the session, which sir has taken just right now. If is there any question from any student, he can ask.
Or we can take up questions at the end of the session.
Yeah, we can take at the end of the session also.
Okay.
Fine, sir. Thank you so much. Now, this is the time to welcome another speaker of today's webinar, Ms. Vedapriya Lahiri. She has completed her BA LLB honors from Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur, after qualifying her CLAT exam. After her BA LLB honors, she qualified the national level ALIT exam with All India rank 57 and completed her masters from National Law University, Delhi. She is also NET qualified and is currently working as assistant professor at Delhi Metropolitan Education. Now, ma'am will tell us the various strategies to crack CLAT exam. Welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. So I am going to share my screen and I'll just request you to tell me if it's visible.
This is very much visible, ma'am.
All right, okay. So good afternoon to everyone present here. As ma'am introduced me, I am Vedapriya Lahiri. I'm currently working as an assistant professor at DME Law School. So I am going to discuss the second part of today's webinar that primarily focuses on how to exactly appear for and how to crack CLAT. What is CLAT? CLAT is basically that one national level examination that you need to give in order to qualify for any of the universities and colleges that are offering such 5-year law courses as Director Sir just told you. So it stands for Common Law Admissions Test. I am sure many of you are already aware of it. If you are not, I'm going to start from the very basic. I'm going to tell you what CLAT is, what is its significance, what is its difficulty level, and what is its syllabus, and what all you need to do in order to prepare well as qualify. So it is like a national level entrance exam, and it is conducted by the consortium of NLUs or national law universities. There are a total of 22 NLUs in this country, and each of them takes a turn in conducting this examination. And the basic purpose of it is to give you an entry into their undergraduate and postgraduate degree programs, which are known as LLBs and LLMs. The national law universities and all the other universities that actually accept CLAT scores, they only accept it for the 5-year law course in undergraduate level. So if you are going to give this examination, you have to be aware that you will be studying a 5-year law course. So apart from the NLUs, there are many private and self-financed schools in India that also use these test scores. So this is like that one universal examination that you have to give if you want to qualify or if you want to study law in this country, which makes it very important. It is, if I have to say in terms of importance, it is as important as your IITs for your engineering examinations or your MBAs for your management examinations. There is one exam, there are limited seats, and there are a lot of candidates. So you have to prepare with a thorough frame of mind, and you have to prepare well in order for you to qualify this examination. So first, let's go over the basics. Let's see what all is required in terms of eligibility, and let's then move on to how exactly you go about it. So in terms of eligibility, there is no age limit in CLAT. There is no upper age limit. It does not matter what your age is, and you can apply for it just after you have graduated or after completing your 12th. As your principal ma'am said, that the last date for applying for CLAT is still open. The applications are open for this year. You can apply till 15th of this month. And given the current pandemic situation, it may just further extend, because the final date of conducting the examinations, which was previously 13th June, now has been indefinitely postponed until the situation becomes better. So don't wait if you are interested, and after this webinar, if you feel that you are interested, don't wait for the last day. Go immediately to the website and then register yourself for this exam. So there is no age limit. But with regards to your educational eligibility, you have to score in your 10+2, like in your 12th boards, a minimum of 45% marks for if you are an unreserved OBC or specially abled persons category. And for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe categories, the educational limit is minimum of 40%. That's all that you require to be eligible for this exam. And then you have your other competition, which is the exam itself. So that we will see how to go about. But this is pretty much what it concerns, that there is no age limit and you need to score a minimum of 45% marks in your 12th or a minimum of 40% marks in your 12th, depending upon your category. How do you go about applying for this exam? First of all, this is an offline exam. Previously, CLAT was conducted in an online mode, but due to some glitches, now they have switched back into the offline mode of examination. The date previously was 13th June, and it's a 2-hour paper. But now it has been postponed until further notice. So I'm sure the consortium of NLUs is going to release a new date in which it's going to conduct, given the circumstances that prevail today, the pandemic and everything. So we'll have to wait for that. How do you apply? Where do you go? So it's available at the consortium of NLUs at .ac.in. So that's the website for CLAT. If you just go Google CLAT, the first link that you get pretty much is this link. It will directly direct you how do you go about the registration process, which is a fairly simple step-by-step process that you have to go through, upload your documents, and then you can pay the fees and register for this exam. Last date, so far the applications are open. It's 15th May. And the application fee for general category is 4,000 rupees. And for SC, ST and OBC, it's 3,500. If you want the previous year question papers, the consortium of NLUs even allows you that. It offers you that as well. You have to pay a nominal fee of 500 rupees. And they add in all the past year question papers of how CLAT has been so far conducted for your reference. And I would like, as we progress in our webinar now, you will see how past year questions become important because they tell us how to prepare. So my advice, you should take it because that helps you in understanding in a very holistic manner how to really prepare for this exam. Now, once you have given the exam, the result is declared and then your admission is done by counseling process and seat allotment after declaration of cutoffs by every university. So that is something that happens after your examinations are done. Now, who all accept this course and where all can you apply once you have given this exam? So first are the 22 national law universities that conduct this common entrance test so that they don't have to conduct independent separate 22 entrance tests. That's why they conduct this one common. So they are the ones who are actually accepting this course. In your counseling process, they are the ones who will be allotting the cutoffs. After that, apart from these NLUs, there are many other good private colleges that also accept scores of CLAT. In fact, at this stage, most colleges across the country, they prefer to accept CLAT scores because the examination pattern is so uniform that they know that if they are going to take a CLAT student, the student will preferably be a good one. Colleges like DME, we also take on the basis of CLAT scores, but we are affiliated to the IP University. IP University also accepts law students only on the basis of CLAT score. But if you want to apply for IP, you have to fill in a separate form known as the CET form. All right. So if you want to apply, if you want to be eligible beyond those 22 NLUs, which I seriously recommend that you should apply beyond those 22 NLUs, that for universities, good universities like IP University, you will also have to fill in the CET form. So you can go on the IPU website, you fill in the CET form, you also fill in the CLAT form, and then you sit for the paper. Once the results are out, on the basis of those results, your IPU will also give you admission, and us at DME, we also will be accepting you only on the basis of that CET application and your CLAT result. So that is pretty much the process of how you apply into these colleges. And I would suggest that be very particular about the process. Don't miss out anything. Don't mix up anything. Don't miss out any of the important processes. Go to the websites and very clearly learn in detail how do you apply so that you don't miss out any opportunity when it comes to giving this exam. Moving on, how is the exam pattern? So this exam, it's a comprehension based paper. It's very different from what you otherwise would give as a part of any competitive exam. All right, so the questions are not very straight that you get one question and 4 options. No, questions are also always going to be based on a paragraph or a comprehension which will range from anywhere between 350 to 500 words. And the idea is basically to test the skill and the comprehension ability of the candidates. The idea is to test the logical reasoning ability of the candidates so that you know or you are able to understand in a manner, they are able to understand that you have that basic reasoning ability that is required for any law student or anybody pursuing law in order to practice this work. So the duration of the paper is for 2 hours. There are 150 questions. All are multiple choice, each having 4 options. There is a negative marking of minus 0.25 for each wrong answer. And it's a comprehension based paper. I will show you how. But regarding the negative marking, I'm sure you have appeared for some exams that have had negative marking so on until now. But if you have not, please know that negative marking basically deducts from the positive scores that you have scored so far in the paper. So if I say there is minus 0.25 negative mark in respect of one question, when you make an incorrect option, when you choose an incorrect option, you not only lose that 1 mark that was associated with that question, but you also lose another 0.25 marks from the total positive marks you had scored till now. So if you do not know an answer, it's always better not to attempt. Because if you attempt and if you get it wrong, you will further lose 0.25 marks. So that's not helpful for you at all. So apart from this, another thing that you have to be very careful about in terms of CLAT is that it is a race against time. There is no other way to describe CLAT. It's a very, compared to that amount of time it has been allotted, the 2 hours, they are pretty less in terms of the kind of questions that are asked. So approximately you get around 48 seconds per question, but that is up to you. You may take less time for some and more time for others. But at any point of time, you should not spend too much time on one question because that is going to be very detrimental to you in terms of appearing for the entire day. Now, syllabus wise, there are 5 things that are asked in this paper. First is your pure English language comprehensions. Around 30 questions out of those 150 are based on English language. Then you have current affairs, including GK. Now, this is based on the current events. Static GK is not asked. States, dates, places, these kind of questions, they are not asked in class. What is going on in your country right now? And what are the burning issues in terms of policy, in terms of general knowledge and current affairs? They are going to be asked in your paper. Again, it's not a straightforward paper like there's a question and there are 4 options and you choose one of them out of those current affairs questions or GK questions. No, you have to study the topics in a more holistic manner in order to answer these questions. We'll see that. Next is your legal reasoning. Now, you are school students, you have not studied law yet. So it would seem rather odd, right, to ask you questions on topics that you do not know. It seems rather unfair. But here, legal reasoning does not exactly mean that they are going to ask you law. No, they are going to see how well, if I tell you what the law is, how well will you apply that law? And what is your skill set in applying that law? That is all that is required when it comes to legal reasoning. So what does that mean? It means that in a paragraph form, certain principles will be given to you. And on the basis of those principles, you will have to apply them. And on the basis of that, come to a conclusion as to how this particular law should or should not have been applied. Like suppose you were a judge, you knew the law and you were given a circumstance. How would you apply that law and what is your understanding? So that's a skill, right? That is application. And that is what they are going to ask you. So that consists about 25% of your paper. Around 35 questions from legal reasoning will be asked. Next is your logical reasoning. Now, logical reasoning also in this case is an argument and inference-based logical reasoning. So questions like mirror image, lateral inversion, those do not really appear in your CLAT paper. They are going to give you paragraphs. And on the basis of those paragraphs, they are going to ask you to analyze certain circumstances. And on the basis of that analysis, they are going to give you options and you will have to pick up which is the best correct analysis in a given circumstance. So you do not need to know the background. You just need to apply your mind, the logic and the reason behind it. So logical reasoning forms around 20% of your paper. And last is quantitative aptitude, which in colloquial terms, I would say maths. A little bit of maths is also asked in your CLAT paper, around 15 questions at maths. And they are all your 10th standard maths. So nothing from 11th and 12th. And until 10th standard, I believe everybody reads maths. So the paper really comes from that. So when I was studying law, I would see many of my friends who had appeared for law because they were not pretty good at maths. So law does not require you to study math at all. So it's a very good option to choose law if you don't want to go for maths. Now, that as a career choice, I would not say you make such a decision. But yes, in order to qualify, you will have to suck it up one last time. And there will be around 10 to 15 questions from class 10. That will be around your mensuration, ratio, proportion, data interpretation, and basic statistics. So those questions also you will have to solve. And let's say I will show you now in the upcoming slides how you can solve such questions. So there will be a particular data that will be given to you. And on the basis of that, you will be asked 5 to 6 questions. So you will have to analyze that data very well and then answer those questions. So moving further, let's come directly to English language. Now, this section is about how quickly and how well can you read. Your reading ability is tested and your comprehension ability is tested. I'm sure reading comprehension is not something which is new to you. You have learned it, you have studied it from class 6 onwards when you have appeared and you have applied reading comprehension passages. But the CLAT standard is a little bit difficult, not very difficult, just a little difficult. So what it does is basically you will get around 450 to 500 words passages. Now this could be a poem, it could be a short story, it could be a newspaper article, anything that you pick up from anywhere, the CLAT consortium picks up. And then on the basis of that, they are going to ask you maybe to draw inferences and conclusions, comprehend the main point, what the author is trying to say, maybe summarize it, maybe ask you synonyms, those kind of things that happen with reading comprehension. So I will just share one sample question with you here that came in the last year's CLAT paper. This is an excerpt from the short story The Cat by Mary A. Wilkins. So this is around 600 words. All right. At this stage, while I'm trying to explain you everything, I cannot really go through the entire passage for you. But just to give you an overall understanding of this question, what they have done is they have given you a 600-word essay. And on the basis of that essay, they would ask you around 3, 4, there were 5 questions. I've taken up 3 out of them. So 5 questions have been asked. So this is the story about a cat, how the cat is very hungry. And because of that, it is waiting on a cold winter night on a steep cliff for a rabbit in order to catch that rabbit. Now, I can tell you this because I have read this passage, but you get only around 1.5 minutes to do that. In 1.5 minutes, you should be able to understand and able to read and able to cull out this particular crux of this entire 600-word passage. Now, how do you attempt these questions? I'll give you a short tip on this. That first read the questions. before you start reading the paragraph, you read the questions. What happens is if you read the paragraph, you read the questions, you again come back to the paragraph and start searching for the points. So you're wasting double effort and double time, and your time is very precious in CLAT exam. So let's not do that. First read the questions. So once you read the questions, you know what are the important words. अगर किसी चीज का synonym पूछा जा रहा है, so you first see which synonym are they asking you of. And then when you start reading the passage, look for that word so that you can find synonyms. Another thing that you should do while reading comprehensions is what I have done on your screen. I have taken up all the difficult words and have started underlining them. Maybe they are relevant, maybe they are not. But at a later time, if I have to find out the meaning or find out where they are in the paragraph, then it is going to be very time consuming for me. So साथ साथ पढ़ते हुए, I have started highlighting and underlining the difficult words. Then I have also tried to highlight what is the main essence of this paragraph. So like I've highlighted, the cat was hungry, almost famished. So that's what I've understood from this paragraph. That this is a story about a hungry cat. So that is given in one single sentence, and that's what I have taken up. Other things, again going back, I have highlighted the sentences that are important or that are shown in the question paper to me. Then I go to the questions. Now, what are the kind of questions? First is an ask for a synonym. Synonym to the words providence and crescendo. Now, either first of all, you need to know the words. If you sometimes don't know the words, you go back and read the paragraph where it is provided. You might as well get the answer from that. So it is upon you, upon your skill, either have a very good command over English or have some intuitive guesses that will allow you to find the answer to the words crescendo and providence. The answer to this question is basically option A. Providence also means a rival. And a crescendo is something that you use in music. So that means apex. Similarly, we move on. There are many figures of speeches that have been asked in this paper, in this particular paragraph. So they are asking you what are the figures of speeches that are present. Then they have given you a single line, and this is the last line of the paragraph. If I just go back 2 steps, then you will see this is the last line that I have highlighted in red that they have asked as a question. So what they have asked in the question is that, but he never faltered and never once cried. He had nothing to gain from crying and everything to lose. So what is the tone of this sentence? How does it sound to you? What is the author trying to say? Is he trying to reflect? Is he trying to apologize? Is he supporting it? Is she, not a he, is she opposing it? So that once you read the entire this paragraph, you will be able to see. But you can see this is the level or the kind of questions that are asked. So just a few pointers before I move on to the next topic, that don't be discouraged if you feel that the paragraph is too difficult or if the passage is too difficult. Sometimes you might as well get some scientific writing that makes no sense to you. If you're not a science student, or even if you're a science student, it doesn't make sense to you. Sometimes they will give you a policy document, paragraphs from the policies, and they will ask you to answer questions. So don't be discouraged as to how difficult or how easy the paragraph is. You are a detective. You have to just find out what is relevant for you. Don't go into the overall understanding. Don't waste time on that. You don't have time like that. Just take out the main points, go to the questions, see what they are asking, start reading the paragraphs, and from there, you will be able to cull out the important bits. Now, how do you prepare for this? See, the best way to go about this is to start reading newspapers. It's a comprehension-based exam. So every 5 questions will have 1 paragraph. You will have to study that 1 paragraph, and then only you will be able to answer those 5 questions. So the more you read, the more you develop. If you are starting today for this year's CLAT, I would still say you start with reading the newspaper cover to cover. Things that you understand and things that you don't understand. What that will actually do for you is that it will develop a speed. You will start making an effort to read something that is hard or something difficult that is not interesting enough. Because your question paper may just have a paragraph like that. And from there, you may be able to find out, or you may develop a speed and an ability to answer such questions, that जब ऐसा कुछ आता है, you are not intimidated by it. You directly go into answering such questions. All right. Now, making note of important lines I have just told you, that is also something which is important. Let's come to current affairs. Now, current affairs, how are they asked in any kind of paper? They directly ask you the GK questions, right? They give you a question and they give you options, and you either you know it or you don't know it. Current affairs are actually quite easy to solve, and they are not very time consuming, because there are only two ways you can either know the answer or you may not know the answer. So if you know the answer, it takes you a second. If you don't know the answer, the intelligent thing to do would be to move on to the next question. So don't waste your time in this section. Answer what you know and leave what you don't know for a later time. You have many things to solve meanwhile. So we'll come back to that later. So here in the current affairs section, they are going to ask you stuff that are very significant or what are happening in the current scenario, contemporary events of India, right now, जो चल रहा है. Something to do with arts and culture, a little bit of international affairs, and things of historical significance. How? Something of historical significance that is being discussed at this stage. अभी उसके बारे में बात हो रही है. Some important dates, some festivals, some Jayanti. So those things you need to know. Now, how do you read about it? And first of all, how do you attempt such questions? So again, in current affairs, they are going to give you a paragraph. And on the basis of this paragraph, then they are going to ask you a set of questions. Now, this is not reading comprehension. So paragraph mein answer nahi milega. Paragraph will simply tell you what is the main topic on which the questions are going to be asked. Then why should you read the paragraph? Because sometimes they will help you in understanding the question better. So give yourself 30 seconds. This is going to be a short paragraph. It's going to be 300 words only. It's not going to be as long as your English section. So 30 seconds you can give yourself and you start reading this. So in this particular, this is an excerpt that is taken from Nidhi Mehta and Gagan Mehta's website. So in this, they are basically discussing how the new education policy that has come in the Modi government, how that is different from the previous policies that were there in the past. So वो एक distinction बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, and that is what they are talking about. Very simple stuff. There, you do not have to read everything. You just have to see what is the main topic. And here lies the catch. अगर तुमको national education policy के बारे में पता है, then you will be able to answer the next 5 questions. If you do not know about NEP, then it's very difficult for you because it's at the end of the year GK question. So you may not be able to answer that. So when you are reading the newspaper, you should take out such important issues. Now, national education policy, it's a policy. It affects your entire country. It's very, very important. And anybody who is preparing for CLAT will know that they should read something like this. Let's take example, citizenship protests. Before COVID happened, Citizenship Amendment Act पे protest चल रहा था. So when you read about that protest, you don't have to read कि आज कितने कहाँ पे दंगे हो गए और कहाँ पे पुलिस बैठ गई. नहीं. Read about what is CAA. कब आया था, क्यों protest हो रहा है, where is citizenship mentioned in our constitution, things like that. उसके बारे में जानो. So a national education policy is something that you take up and you learn about it. See what is it trying to say, how much budget is it going to allocate in India, what is it trying to achieve, what is it trying not to achieve, how is it different. So the moment you open Wikipedia, I think there also you will find it. It's ऐसा नहीं है कि बहुत in deep जाके internet पे research करना है. The first link that you find will give you that idea, but you need to know the events. Knowing the events is going to help you. Date, place, those kind of things, they are not asked in class. So here, if you know what is the national education policy, again start highlighting the main words. They are going to talk about higher education institutions. They are going to talk about colleges. Once you have done, you have read this chapter, this particular paragraph, then you try to answer the question. So the first question in this they are asking is, what is the aim of NEP? So which of the following is not related to that aim of NEP? These 4 points are not mentioned in the paragraph. So you need to know, that is your knowledge. This portion is your knowledge. They are testing how much you know this topic. So you need to know it. लिखे हुए पैराग्राफ से एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग मिलेगी कि क्वेश्चंस कैसे पूछे जाएंगे, ये नहीं पता चलेगा कि उसका आंसर क्या है. For that you need to actually prepare and sit for it. So again, your basis is your newspaper, and of course please buy a book, any book that you can, and from that book you will be able to understand what are the important topics that you should cover for that year. So the annual books that come, Arihant, Universal, so many publication houses take out the books. Just take one, any of those books. You don't have to buy them all. That is a waste of money. One of them, so that you know the topics, and from there you can proceed. Next is like this, the questions go. Then we have legal reasoning. Like I told you, they will tell you the law itself. You will not require any prior knowledge of law. That is what the consortium says. So their understanding is that we will give you the law. Your job is to identify it and to apply it. And see, if I change the circumstance, will the application of law also change? So how do you prepare for it? The question is कि इसको करे कैसे? So again, they will give you a paragraph of 300 to 350 words. In that paragraph, they will mention the law. So whenever you see words like contract, or whenever you see a word like constitution, article, section, these are words that are associated with law. Where do you find such words? That book I told you about, Arihant, or any Universal's book. Check out their legal portion. They give you a basic understanding of the topics that are present there. All right. Apart from that, go through the previous year question papers. They will tell you the kind of questions they ask. क्या वो contract पे पूछा जाता है? क्या वो constitution पे पूछा जाता है? Sometimes they ask you, they tell you that theft has happened. So if in this circumstances, will the law regarding theft apply? Something to do with a basic petty crime. You have grown. चोरी किसको नहीं पता? So you have grown up with the concept. Now they are asking you to apply. They are telling you the law. They will ask you to apply. So that is what you have to do when you are dealing with a particular kind of legal section. So again, around 300 to 400 words article they will give you. In that article, they will tell you the law. Your job, first of all, go to the questions. See what kind of questions they are asking, and from that you will understand which are the words that are associated that you have to find in that paragraph. Once you have found those words, underline them, understand the law, and then try to answer the questions. If you have read it well, you will be able to answer. But I have to warn you here that this portion does not come just on its own. पहली बार वहां पे attempt करोगे तो ये नहीं बनेगा. What you have to do is you have to study a little bit in advance. So concepts like the contract, torts, crime, constitution, read a little bit about that in your syllabus before you go and attempt these questions. You have a legal education as a topic or as a subject in your classroom. उसी की NCERT book उठा के पढ़ोगे तो भी फायदा होगा. But read a little bit about it so that you understand the concepts of law, so that at least you know what to look for in the paper. And when you're able to do that, then that will be fine. Last, logical reasoning. Again, they will give you a paragraph. And from that paragraph, you will have to understand what it's a inference and argument based question. So they will give you, like this is an article from the Hindu. The author is trying to talk about how social media journalism is cultivating fake news, and how we should try to have more researched and more authentic journalism in our country. Okay, that is what it's trying to say. Very simple. If you just go through the paragraph, you will be able to understand the points. And then on the basis of his arguments, you will have to find conclusion. So if the author is talking about the impact of digitalization of journalism, he is basically saying जब journalism digital हो गया है, which means social media पे आ गया है, अब उसका क्या फायदा या नुकसान है. So with this understanding, now you apply that in a question. So which of the following ideas is the author trying to convey? So according to the author, the social media journalism is trying to distort the truth. Fake news are real. So that is what the author is trying to convey in this article. So that is something you have to find out from the passage. Very similar to your reading comprehension, but यहाँ पे तुमको अपने से inference देना. You have to give a conclusion to the arguments of the author. Good thing is very short paragraphs come into this. 200, 250 words paragraphs. So you can spend less time on this, focus more on your reading comprehension if you're able to do it well. All right. So again, this is the logical reasoning. In law, there is no math. So there is no concept or understanding or even utility of asking you lateral inversions or general logical aptitude questions. We need you as lawyers to be able to frame arguments, to be able to analyze and to be able to argue that. तो उसके लिए तुमको समझना पड़ेगा facts को ताकि तुम arguments बना सको. So that is what the CLAT exam is also trying to ask you. Lastly, we are the mathematics bit. So it is the data interpretation and the class 10 standard maths that you need to follow, that you need to do. And I think that is pretty much what covers the entire syllabus of law. So these are like your simple mensuration based questions that you have to answer. And whether there is a data given in this question. So in this data, they are asking you the length, breadth, and height. And on the basis of this, they are asking to analyze or find the area in a particular section or in a particular circumstance. So something you have done all through your NCRTs. Just go revise your NCRTs. That is your core area from where you can solve this maths questions. And in general, regarding CLAT, and this is my general, what should I say, a gyan to you, that practice as much as you can. Make yourself as aware, as well versed as you can with respect to the topics, so that it's not a surprise for you in the paper. Familiarize yourself with the OMR. How do you fill it? How do you apply for it? And don't spend too much time on one question. Just give it optimum time, move on to the next one, revise and re-revise, and read your newspapers. So I think that's it from my side. Thank you very much. So we can take questions if you have it. Ma'am, you are on mute.
Thanks a lot, Vedapriya ma'am, for such an informative session. Students, now this is the time to ask questions. If you have any question, then please write down your question in the chat box, or I can unmute you and you can ask the questions. Students are there? Participants, if you have any questions, then please raise your hands, or you can write down your question in the chat box, or I can unmute you, then you can ask your question. If you have any question from the Director Sir session and from Vedapriya ma'am session. No question is there?
Some students raise their hands in between. Now they can ask the question. Raise your hand and ma'am will unmute you. Students, if you have any query, raise your hand.
Yeah, there is a question from Sir. CS is also a legal advisor. Then what is the difference between legal officer and CS?
Yeah, so this question is asked by Khushi Bansal, and Khushi, CS is not a legal advisor. CS is company secretary whose task is to look after corporate governance. And when I say corporate governance, it means whether all the government guidelines are followed or not, whether all the laws and rules are followed or not. So there's a difference between CS and a legal officer. A CS doesn't go to the court and argue as an advocate. So to clarify your confusion or your query, CS is not exactly a law profile. It's a profile primarily about following of laws, corporate governance as we call it. And to conclude your point, I must say that yes, a law degree and a CS degree do make a very good combination. They make a very good combination.
Any other the other question from anyone else?
Yeah, there is.
So what is the difference of doing LLB from NLUs or other universities like DME or DU?
Okay, so that's really a very tricky question, I must say, because we have Vedpriya ma'am here, who is LLB from NLU Chhattisgarh, while means so it's very difficult for me to speak anything against NLUs. Uh, anyway, the structure of legal education or any education in this country is like this, that we have a tier 1 of educational institutions. When we talk about the tier 1 educational institutions, in engineering they are the IITs. When we talk about medical, they are the AIMS. When we talk about hotel management, they are the IHMs. And when we talk about law, they are the NLUs, right? So we have around 15 NLUs with Priya. We have around
22 at this stage.
22 NLUs. So roughly the idea is that every state should have one IIT, one IIM, one NLU, so on and so forth. So yes, it is true, Madam Khushi Bansal, that NLUs are the tier 1 education institutions. But then, Khushi, I can quote you several examples wherein we have great lawyers who never went to NLUs. Not only that, the point is that it's good to get admission in a premier institution, but then it's not a guarantee for success. Say for example, if I talk about Madam Aishwarya Bhatti, who was the first female Attorney General of Uttar Pradesh and who is the additional Attorney General of our country. She never went to an NLU, and she did her law from Jainaran Vyas University, Jodhpur. Similarly, we have thousands of examples. So premier institutions, definitely NLUs are there, but then nothing can guarantee you success. Or in other way, I am saying that doing law from any college, and of course IPU that way is equivalent to NLUs, because I believe in 2020 the cutoff of IPU campus was around 4,000, while that of NLUs was 5,000. Yes, as far as affiliated colleges of IPU is concerned, the merit was a little higher, but then IPU campus is considered to be as good as or even better than NLUs, which Priya would agree a little. But yes, IPU campus is, as far as the cutoffs are concerned, slightly better than NLUs. So yes, NLUs are premier institutions as far as law is concerned, but then doing law from any other college, success is there, because success comes to us each day. No degree can guarantee you success.
Yes, sir, there is another question in the chat box. He's asking that I want to ask to sir that if do not want to do the graduation, only want to focus for the judiciary, that is not applicable or not a better option to do that.
Okay. Can you repeat it, Rimshi?
I want to ask to sir that if do not want to do the graduation, like he said that agar hum graduation na kare, straight away judiciary ki practice kare, so is it applicable?
No, you can't appear for a judiciary exam unless you are a law graduate. And
so
for appearing in the judiciary exam, you need to be a law graduate. That's the primary condition.
One more question is there, sir. Is there any restriction that we have to do 3 years practice for the judge position?
It is not. It is not. I'll tell you, there are two ways in which you can enter into judiciary. One is that you straight away appear for judiciary exams after your law degree. And I can tell the audience that our first batch, DME's first batch, has 2 judges. Harshika Rastogi and Santosh Kumar are 2 judges from my college's first batch. So they never practiced. Like they passed out, they completed their graduation in 2018, and they were judges in 2019. So as such, no practice is required. And yes, there is another way where you can directly enter into the higher judiciary. You directly become an additional district judge. For that, I believe 15 years of practice is required. Yeah, Vedpriya, is that right?
So for higher judiciary, yes, sir, that is the case.
So students, if you have any other question, then please raise your hands or write down your questions in the chat box, because I have received another question, but that is a repeated question, that there is a difference between doing LLB from NLU or other university like DU. So if you have any other question, then please tell us. I don't think so there is any other
One
question.
student has raised his hand. Naveen.
Yes, Naveen.
We can unmute Naveen.
All the students should fill the attendance sheet before leaving. There is a link sent in the chat box. All the students are required to fill attendance sheet to get e-certificates.
Naveen, do you have any question?
Student has Rishabh.
Well, those who are raising their hands, I request you to open up their camera, video, audio, both.
Yeah, there is one raised hand, but
Rishabh, Naveen. Rishabh
Ma'am.
has also raised his hand.
Rishabh, please, yeah.
Someone is sending
no,
your
Rishabh,
link.
Rishabh is
Ma'am.
speaking. Yes, Rishabh.
Please. Ma'am, someone is sending your link, ma'am.
Ambika.
Rishabh, you can send your query in chat.
Okay.
There is a question for Vedapriya ma'am. He said that ALET and CLAT, which exam is more difficult?
So AILET is the examination, All India Law Entrance Test, that is conducted by one NLU, that is National Law University, Delhi. The overall seats that are there in that examination is around 60, including the category ranks. And the overall seats that are there in your CLAT exam, they are close to 5,000. All right. So difficulty wise, I would say the CLAT exam in the terms of the paper pattern is more difficult because the number of students are higher. But at the same time, the number of seats in IELTS is equally limited, and it's a national level exam. So many students apply for that as well. In terms of, if I actually have to guide you, I would say that if you want to apply for IELTS, please do that, not a problem. But definitely give your CLAT exam, because the number of seats in IELTS are very limited, and at least you may be with your caliber able to score better and get a seat in any of the CLAT colleges, but you may just miss out on IELTS. So difficulty wise, CLAT is high difficult, but seat wise, IELTS is also limited. So they are at par. If anybody ever prepares, they prepare for both, but definitely give your exam for CLAT, because that is going to be very beneficial for you, and that's going to save you in the longer run.
So, Vedpriya, IELTS means the test which is for going abroad, right?
No, sir. IELTS is AILET.
Okay.
That is the NLU Delhi exam. That
Okay,
NLU Delhi conducts separately, which is not a part of the CLAT consortium.
Yes, yes. Okay. I thought it's IELTS. Okay. Yeah, Tanveer Singh.
Tanveer, you can send your question in chat box, beta.
Hello.
Hello, Tanveer.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any question?
Ma'am, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, please speak, Tanveer.
Ma'am, what are we doing?
Pardon?
Ma'am, what are we doing?
Tanvi, you can send your question in chat box.
Okay, next question is from Saurabh, and that again is a very difficult question. Saurabh is asking, what is the annual income of a lawyer? So, Saurabh, well, if you are talking about judiciary, yes, I can tell you what is the salary of a magistrate. But if you are talking about joining a law firm, typically students start with law firms, say during their 10th semester, they get a stipend of around 20,000 per month. But I have seen that once your 10th semester internship is complete, the salary is, I can say a package of 3+ is the beginning package. Yes. Means I'm giving you a realistic figure. I can also speak about higher packages, but I'm talking about the average package. It's 3+ to begin with. And if you are talking about litigation, yes, sky is the limit. Okay, Dev Grover, please write, please write. 3+ is annual. Saurabh, 3+ is annual if you are joining a law firm, or you are, means that is for an average lawyer to begin with. Yes, 25,000 per month, that's the beginning salary. I'm giving a very realistic figure. Subsequently, yes, you know, you can rise in the organization and there's no limit.
Any other question?
I think all the queries have been answered, and
Okay,
now the students have
one more query from Dev, which seems to be a very genuine query. He is asking, according to us, according to me, which university is better for law than the NLUs? Well, let me now explain to you the system of legal education in this country. At the top, the tier 1, we have the NLUs, which are 22 in number, or I can say every state has got one NLU. The next level is the government universities. Their law programs are very reputed, whether it is DU or IPU or any other. And thereafter we have and even private universities, their law programs are very good. But then the point is that, say for example, means I can't name any private university, but you know, there are what the private universities are doing, they are charging very high fee. Say if the fee is 3 lakh per annum, say in a 5-year course, typically you end up paying 20-25 lakhs. So when you think in terms of return on investment, I think if you don't get admission in an NLU, go for any government university or an affiliated college that will provide you the best return on investment. There are colleges, means, okay, then I'll name them, OP Jindal or Symbiosis. They charge very high fee, and after a 5-year course, you end up paying 35 to 40 lakhs. And then the question is, how do you get the return on that investment? So that way, think of ROI, return on investment, and you can take a decision.
One question is there, sir, from Vrinda Bajaj. What are basically law firms' work?
Okay, so if you look at my presentation, law firms do A to Z of the legal aspects. Say, for example, if I talk about, say, Deloitte or PricewaterhouseCoopers, these law firms are into various tasks like due diligence. Say, for example, due diligence means if, say, I want to sell a company, then I need buyers and I need the correct price. So that task will be taken up by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they are going to charge a commission. Similarly, say I talk about, say Satyam. So PricewaterhouseCoopers was the auditor for Satyam. When we talk about audits, there is a legal angle also. So there are various tasks like due diligence, audit, Then insurance, assurance. Assurance means what? Insurance is you insure, while assurance means you assure that, okay, so assurance is like banking is what? A banker, what does a bank do? Between A and B, the bank is a party which assures that yes, this transaction is fine, and it's like a guarantor. So guaranteeing, again, in stock market, we call it underwriting. So there are large number of tasks which law firms do, and generally students get employed with the law firms.
Sir, one more question is from Rishabh. He's asking that what is the difference between barrister and lawyer?
Oh, so that's a question for Vedpriya. There are various terms: solicitor, attorney, barrister, lawyer. Vedpriya, please take this question.
What is the difference
That's-
between barrister and lawyer, ma'am?
Okay. So barristers is an English law concept. So you find barristers in UK. You don't have barristers in India. In India, we do not follow this terminology. We solicitors are a colloquial term. But if you see according to law, then we just have advocates as designation and senior advocates. That are the only two terminologies that we follow in India under the legal profession. Otherwise, solicitors and barristers, they are a British concept that is no longer followed in India.
Rishabh, I can tell you that this question I do ask to people who come for joining as assistant professor in my college, and they are also unable to answer this question. So that was a very intelligent question.
The Pavni Gera student want to ask if the judiciary category of CLAT is better or go for legal firms.
Well, all the options are good, means we can't be judgmental on that. All options are good. Law firms are paying very well, and judiciary, of course, is one career where you will be on the other side of the table, means you will not be advocating, but you will be writing the judgments.
Tanya Garg wants to ask a question like, what is the number of seats for general category in NLUs?
Yeah, Vedpriya, please.
I will just tell you.
Okay, in general, we can say that 50% seats are for the general category. Like when we divide the seats, then I believe 27% is for OBC. Then we have reservation for SCs, STs, and means going by that Supreme Court judgment, 51% seats are always there for the general category.
Sir, data-wise, around 1,300 seats are there in the top NLUs that exist, and around 2,700 seats overall, including the category ranks in the NLU. So that is the estimate of the number of seats that we have in NLUs only, not other NLUs, only in NLUs.
Okay, for the knowledge of the audience, Vedpriya, I want to ask you a question that up till what rank a student can get admission in an NLU?
So,
I believe it's roughly 5,000 to 6,000.
Absolutely, not beyond that. And now that is 5,000 to 6,000 now when we have 22 universities. Previously, when we used to have 11 or 12, that used to go even less. So that used to be around 2,000 or 2,500 at max. So
Okay,
after that, all other universities.
Please try to understand that if your CLAT rank is up till 5,000, you can get a seat at NLUs.
I am getting a lot of questions here on this in this regard.
Okay, please, Vedpriya, please.
So it's written that is it better to take admission in a private college than a low-ranked NLU whose placements are very low? So, sir, I think you can answer this.
Well, my answer is yes. My answer is definitely yes.
Very much so. And another question
because it is true. Okay, I'll explain in terms of IITs. Say, for example, students, if you talk about IIT Ropar, means it was established a decade ago, and still the placements are not there. So what is the fun of that IIT? Similarly, when we talk about NLUs or even IIMs, we find that, say, we have an IIM at Udaipur, at Rohtak, and I can tell you that placements are not there. So that way, it is true that the newly established NLUs, they have very poor placements. There's no doubt about that. So if you are getting option in those, and students generally do that, means we have many students who belong to Delhi NCR, they get admission in, say, NLU Assam, and they do not go for that. Rather, they take admission in any IPO affiliated college.
And there is this concept of geographical advantage also. We have the Supreme Courts and the High Courts in Delhi. So colleges around that, they are always able to cater with. So one last question from here is that which books we prefer for the preparation of CLAT exam along with sample paper. So I'll answer this as Universal and Arihant. Arihant is very up to date when it comes to revising its patterns. It does it annually. So that way Arihant is very useful to you. Otherwise you have LexisNexis, you have many other companies, small and big. But Arihant and Universal.
Ma'am, please write down the names of the books which you prefer.
All right, I'll do that.
Chat box. Then students can note it down also. No?
Sure. So that's from my side.
Any other question from any student? I don't think so that there is any question now. Over to you, Shalini ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, Rinchi ma'am. Thank you, Vedapriya ma'am. Thank you, Ravi sir, Director sir, for giving such a wonderful presentation. I am sure that all of you have enjoyed the presentation and the vast knowledge of our resource persons. So I would like to thank first and foremost Principal ma'am, Sunita ma'am, who has given us the opportunity to interact with the students. Ma'am, I have seen the video that you have shared with me, DAV Fatehbad News, and I must congratulate you for the commendable job that you, your staff and students are doing. I would also like to thank all the teachers of the school for motivating students to attend this webinar. I would like to thank Director sir for answering all the queries of the students in such a simplest way, and also guiding us and motivating us to conduct these kind of webinars on a regular basis. I would also like to thank Vedapriya ma'am. It was such an eye-opener for me also, the detailed explanation of the CLAT exam. So thank you so much. I would also like to thank all the students, the participants who have patiently listened to all the presentation and questioned at the end for their queries. And last but not the least, I would like to thank all my outreach team, Rinchi ma'am for hosting the event, Roli ma'am for supporting us at the back end. Thank you so much, and looking forward to have these kind of webinars in future as well. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And students, please fill in the attendance form. It is there in your chat box. So please fill in before you leave.
So before we conclude today's webinar, I would also like to thank our Vice Chairman, Sir, Mr. Aman Sahni, Director General, Sir, Retired Justice Bhavar Singh, and Director, Sir, Dr. Ravikant Swami for their unconditional support. I would also like to thank Dr. Shalini Gautam, ma'am, organizer of this webinar, Sunita Madan, ma'am, Principal, SBP DAV Centenary Public School, Fatehbad, Haryana, Vedapriya, ma'am, speaker for today's webinar, and Roli, ma'am, for backend support, and the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.